Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and Proteus kill teams to that 6+++ show. I am your host, Tom, and I am back with the first ever State of Play for 10th edition. Obviously, in State of Play, I talk to faction experts about particular factions they've been running and having good results with, try and give you, the listeners, some tricks and tips about how to get the most out of an army. I like to do this with people who really bed in on factions, and I also like to do this with people who are trying to do something a little bit different. Unfortunately, I've been able to find someone who has been able to excel with something in this meta that isn't one of the sort of two or three obvious choices. So it is my absolute pleasure today to have Chris Radford here with me. How are you doing, Chris?
Hi, Tom. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
No, pleasure to have you on. Honestly, I've not met you before, but I've heard a lot about you because you're a regular practice partner with our very own Ed, and he speaks incredibly highly of you. So I guess before we get into Deathwatch specifically and their place in this current 10th meta, maybe if you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, I'd be interested to know your sort of history in the game. And I know that you're a player for Team Ignite these days as well, so I'd be curious to know how that came about. So yeah, by all means, give us a little bit of a potted biography of yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I'll think back. So I've been playing 4K. I've playing 4K for like 10 years, but I started going to events about
Nice.
2 years ago. About 2 years ago, my first event was. And I first started playing and played with loads of like local guys around Wolves, where I live. We made the Savvy Submariners, the team.
Yeah.
So we started going to events. Went to my first event, and it was like a drug. Absolutely loved it.
It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I went to one, and I brought a ticket for the week afterwards straight away. I was like, I'm going to another RTT straight away next week.
Yeah.
I went on to BCP, looked at the best Space Wolf list, and then just copied that as I played Space Wolves.
Yeah.
And I ran out to loads of events, the same list for months on end. With the Savvy Submariners, this like group of probably about 6 guys, I think it was, going around to all the different UKTC events, LGT, and so on, and had an absolute blast. So then from then, I tried to set my goal. I'm going to try and be the number 1 Space Wolf player on the ITC.
Yeah,
that's like my aim for the following year when I started. So I just played Space Wolves over and over again, through some times in Melter, which is great, and through some times.
Yes, I was going to say there was some some phases where they were crazy.
There were some high points, and there were some very low points. Playing Space Wolves into Tyranid blocks. It's just
oh my word!
It was tough. Yes. It was tough. some of the matches that have been, but I went through that, and I managed to get that one. And then at that point, I got that award, and then Vic messaged me around that time. I think it was like February this year. Said we're setting up a new team with Dave Gaylard, Brian Sepp, Yockel, who I played at LGT ages ago.
Oh, great!
Was this something you'd be interested in? And I was like, definitely, 100%.
Wow. Absolutely. I mean, hand-picked by Vic is not a bad way to go, is it?
Exactly. And Vic's quite local to me as well. So he's from Birmingham. So
is he? That's cool. Yeah,
we played it a lot of like Glasshammer GTs together and RTTs. And the amount of times I've met Vic in Game 5 of a GT and just got absolutely smashed. Like, it's all going so well. And then in our local meta, it's a joke. You win your first 4 games and you lose to Vic in the final.
Right, that's the rite of passage, is it? Nice, yeah, that sounds about right.
That's happened.
Fantastic, and obviously, so Ignite obviously only been going a little while now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many players does Ignite have at this moment in time, because obviously you've soared to the top of the rankings, doing incredibly well as a team.
Yeah. We've got 7, 7 players. I think that's it. So we've got me, Vic, Dave. They're the ones in England. We've got Boris as well in England.
Of course,
Brian in Scotland, Yockel in Iceland, and then we've got Liam VSL in Belgium. So 7 of us.
Yeah,
quite a small knit
fantastic.
group.
Well, I think that can be really effective, and it certainly seems to be working. We've seen those amazing results with you guys winning the teams event. That was really cool to see, and lots of big event placings and stuff. So really exciting times. I feel like Ignite are going to be around as a dominant force for quite a while. I'm excited to see it all develop.
I really hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. Be along for the ride, man. That's great. Yeah. Okay, well, so obviously, as you know, as you've alluded to, you played Space Wolves really hard throughout the end of 9th, and did incredibly well with them. Obviously, we're still talking Marines today, but we're talking some specialists because it's not been. So I have to say, I've been a little bit apprehensive about getting State of Play started again, precisely because the top of the game hasn't looked terribly interesting to me, right? There haven't been a lot of surprises at the top of the game in recent times. We know what's good. We know my beloved GSC, my beloved Elves are both very good, far too good. And we know there's a couple of other contenders bubbling away just under that. But one of the more interesting things has been the emergence of Deathwatch, because Deathwatch for Space Marines seem to be the way to go, right? Space Marines themselves haven't landed especially hard, but Deathwatch seem to have a really cool toolkit that is helping them to hang in this meta against the odds, it's worth saying. And so I think it was really nice to zoom in and focus in on that. And obviously you've just had an incredible performance at the Leeds GT, where you made the semi-finals, and you only lost to Josh Roberts himself running double Wraith Knight, which I'm sure we can talk about towards the end. Yeah, I bet it was.
It'll be a short conversation, Tom, on that one.
No, I can imagine. I actually know at least 2 other people that played Josh on his run to winning that event, and they all sounded like short games, like quite short, violent experiences. But obviously very well done to Josh. Josh seems to be really going for singles this year. It's been really interesting to see. He's obviously been in the background a little bit the last couple of years, but it's nice to see him out again at the top of these big events. So what we'll do to begin with is we'll introduce people to, briefly remind them who the Deathwatch are, in case they're not aware. I think people do know, but it's nice to just chat about the flavour and feel of the faction. I think actually it's useful because who they are does help to explain a little bit how they're able to be succeeding against the odds at this moment in time. So then we'll think a little bit about sort of the lists you've been using and some of the key units and tools you've found to make Deathwatch work. We'll think about the sort of stratagems, enhancements. Obviously, the index is a nice, punchy little index, so we'll chat about that as well. And then we'll talk through your Leeds run and just pick up on a couple of the games that you really enjoyed and a couple of the matchups, and you can, I guess, highlight how the army played for you in the process.
Yeah.
So if we talk about Deathwatch, what's the role of Deathwatch in the overall sort of 40k sort of lore and meta, would you say? What's the army's kind of place over time?
We're the Xenos hunters, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. Alien bashers.
Any alien, no big enough. How big or small?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously they're drawn from all the different Space Marine chapters. They're super elite, and they go out on these almost suicidal missions to go and take down, Tyranids, Orcs, Elves, whatever it is. And they've always historically had really cool rules to kind of reflect that, right? It puts a slightly different spin on them, on the way that Marines work, and gives them a few tricks and tools to help them deal with the kinds of threats that you'd expect the Deathwatch to be facing. So I always feel like they do a good job of writing Deathwatch rules in that sense. So if we start perhaps actually with the enhancements and strats, I guess that's like the top layer for this. In terms of the actual rule set that Deathwatch got in 10th edition, what is it that drew you to them as a competitive option, as a playable army? What kinds of tricks and tools have they got, and what sorts of things do you find yourself using?
I think the best trick, the absolute thing that drew me to that army is the teleport strat. It's called Teleportarium.
Oh yeah,
so
it's so
that's
good.
Where it's insane and it's so fun to use. We're basically Grey Knights that can actually kill something, because at the end of your opponent's turn, you can pick up 2 kill teams, or you can pick up one of a unit, like a block of 10 Desolators, for example, and then you place them down. And you can place them down like they're coming in from Deep Strike. It's not actually Deep Strike, but it's like they're coming in from Deep Strike 9 away, and so on. So that's the best stratagem. And that's the thing, when I saw that strat, I was like, okay, I've got to look into this army, because that could be really fun to use.
Yeah. Play like that is massive, right? I remember when I was reading the GSC index, they've got Return to Shadows, which obviously has a similar sort of application. Yes. And you're just like, you can just do so much with this, right? That kind of redeploy potential. We did a show specifically focused on movement a couple of weeks ago, and just tricks like that can just open up possibilities with an army so much. And as you say, the fact that it's 2 kill teams, and kill teams in Deathwatch, as we'll get into, can put out some hurt. It gives you that enormous flexibility, doesn't it? Because you can focus bits of the board, you can go full send, go really aggressive, or you can get out a dodge if you've got a problem on a flank, whatever else. Very flexible tool in Teleportarium, and an absolutely sort of world-beating strat. Very nice.
You can make your opponent feel uncomfortable throughout the whole game, because they never know where you're at. I mean, that's so important.
Yeah, exactly. That. It keeps people honest, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. A good competitive game shouldn't be comfortable. I don't know if you have this after an event where you're just like, those are all so hard. You're like, yeah, that's the point. The point is that those are hard. You have to think. Armies make you think. Enemy armies make you think. And yeah, so Teleportarium, obviously a massively powerful stratagem, gives you a lot of different outs and a lot of different options in the way that you approach the game. Was there anything else in the stratagems that kind of shone through?
So there's one stratagem as well. So there's that one, and there's another strat where you can pick, again, 2 kill teams of 1 unit, which is like a theme for Deathwatch. So 2 kill teams of 1 of a unit, and it increases the range of the weapons by 6 and AP by 1. Now, that's got two main uses that we're going to use quite a lot. One of them is just gives you AP minus 1 of your Desolators. That's pretty big.
Yes.
And also increasing their range to 42. You'll find on like a lot of train sets, that's like a crucial extra 6 inches you need. You can't really hide from Desolators.
No, no, you can't,
unfortunately. But that's that one. And then it also has a really good use on frag cannons, which I guess we'll get into Deathwatch veterans in a bit.
Yes.
But that comes up to frag cannons, really important. It's an important combo to use to increase their range. They're quite a short range gun. Increasing by 6 inches is really important.
Yeah. And that extra AP, especially when you've got the kind of massed fire with those of moment, that really helps, right? Because you're just going to push through so many more saves on a big target, or a horde or whatever else, and just chew through squads. Desolators with 42-inch range is a very different game as well. That's a really interesting thing because they can just access so much more of the board. They're much harder to play around, and again bearing in mind the combination play here, they could be popping up somewhere and picking a new spot on the board anyway if they've used Teleportarium. So you've got a unit here that can reach out and touch things all over the place. Really, really powerful. No, that's really cool. And so in terms of the enhancements, was there anything in the Deathwatch enhancements that is worth taking or that sort of helps you build around your list?
There's one I'd take every time, and there's one I'd try to fit in and do almost all I can to fit it in, but it's not in the world. So the one I'll take every time is the Tome of the Ectoclades. Tome of the Ectoclades. That goes on my Watchmaster, and that means that one turn in your command phase, you can pick 2 over moment targets. So 2 targets where you're going to be re-rolling all hits, and you're going to be re-rolling all wounds. And that's the absolute best enhancement that you can get. Especially for like Deathwatch, where you have like a go turn where you're like, all right, I'm going to kill you now. I'm going to table you now.
This is
Having 2 targets is really, really big there.
Yeah, completely. Because again, they're an army that we'll talk about the specific units, but they can really go to town with like high volume shooting. And so if you've got 2 places on the board where you're just re-rolling your hits, re-rolling your wounds, adding AP, you're just going to make a big crater. And that's really, really nice to have. So again, it does have that sort of go turn is right. It's got a real pick its moment and then just blast a hole in the opponent kind of feel and just put the opponent in an unrecoverable position. And I think that's the thing about the toolkit here between the enhancements and the strats. You've just got a bunch of stuff. You don't have to bring Gilliman to get 2 Oaths targets, right? You don't have just Brabute running around costing however much he costs.
It's so much better than Gilliman as well, because Gilliman, you have to kill the first Oath target to get the second one to pop. And that's really awkward. Whereas the Deathwatch just is 2, so you don't have to worry about your ordering. It's less for your opponent for strats. It's really, really good, really strong.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that's the thing. I've watched the Gilliman combo fall down a few times when people haven't quite got it right with mixing up the targets and everything else, or tried to get greedy. And so I think this is the raw power on Tome of Ectoclades is wonderful. So what's the enhancement that you try to fit in? What's your nice to have?
This one's Fee for Secrets. This one's mainly for you put it on a captain. So I put it on a captain. And it gives you +1 strength, +1 AP, and then +1 damage. So stick on a captain's power fist, and he's going to be strength 9, -3, 3 damage. And then that punchy. Captain again has got that go turn of once a game he can get +3 attacks and dev wounds. So he's going to have, I think,
very
9 attacks,
nice.
hitting on 2s. Strength 9, -3, 3 damage, dev wounds. It's really, really strong.
Yeah, which again, if you've got Oaths rolls, you're just going to absolutely put holes in things. That's super cool.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's very Space Wolvesy of you, that one.
Yeah, I know, I love it.
building a big punchy character, you got to have one in there somewhere, right?
Exactly. I'll give me a little target to do as well.
Yeah. Not in-game rules though, because they're annoying. Just declare one for yourself. Have a little bit of paper. Like, I'm doing a saga. It doesn't matter. It's not in the game. I just want to do one.
I need to give a space.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of the. Oh yeah, you should. You should have a bunch of like Space Wolf shoulder pads.
Deathwatch, isn't he? Of course.
Yeah. So I think that's an amazing sort of base toolkit to work with.
Yeah.
I can't remember what's the sort of overall like army rule for Deathwatch.
So they've got there's two. There's one called Kill Team, which is
Okay.
like this massive wall of text. I couldn't recite it to you at all, but I think it's the key thing is that everyone in the kill team gets infantry.
Yeah.
So if you have a biker in a kill team, it can go through walls. That's the key thing in there.
This is it. Yeah, which as we'll come to, that can be a big deal.
For the old Proteus. And
Yeah.
then the second one is we can pick we have 3 doctrines. I can't remember what they're called in Deathwatch, but it's like 3 doctrines.
Okay.
And then you pop them in your command phase, and then to your next command phase, you get some form of buff. You get one which is sustained hits in shooting and in combat. You get lethal hits, or you get precision on a critical hit, which is one you use the least. But generally, sustained hits and lethal hits. Again, we're talking about a go turn. That sustained hit or lethal hits is really, really important. And
it just gives you exactly the right application for the target, doesn't it? Which is really cool. Yeah. And again, sustained hits. I'm hearing a lot of Space Wolvesy sounding things in here, right? Exploding sixes, big melee, big punchy melee character.
If it was double exploding sixes, I'd never look back as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh goodness, I don't miss that. That was insane. That was so terrifying to play into. Yeah, no, it's super cool toolkit. So let's talk about some of the units that you've been using to get the most out of this. Then obviously you've alluded to a couple of them. So you've talked about Desolation Marines and Kill Teams. So maybe if we start there, and then we can talk about the kind of tech that plays around that, because it feels like that's the kind of cutting core of the list, right? The bodies in the Kill Teams and the Desolation Squad. So how do you tend to use them? What's their function in the list?
So the absolute bread and butter of the list is a Deathwatch Veteran. This is a battle line unit, so it's like a troop, and it's OC2. You basically take a big squad of 10, and then in that squad of 10, you can take 4 Deathwatch Thunderhammers, which are the old Deathwatch Heavy Hammer, I think it's called. It's strength 10, damage 3 Thunderhammer, so it's like a 9th edition Thunderhammer. Which is much better. I know, yeah. It literally is the exact version of Thunderhammer, I think. And it's got Death Wound. I'd then take 4 frag cannons, which are probably the most important part of the army, I think. And these guys are short range weapons, but like I said, we're going to increase their range of a stratagem. And they've got being strength 7, -1, 2 damage, D3 shots, blast. And then when you get into rapid fire range, you get an extra. Exactly, yeah. When you get into rapid fire range, you get an extra D3 shots as well. So that's the frag cannon. So it's it's an all-comer gun, I think. I mean, Tempest removes some of those.
It's your seismic cannon, isn't it? It's it's going to do any job because it's got enough volume, enough AP, enough damage, enough strength that you can just. It's very versatile, especially once you've buffed it up with the strats and buffs that you've already described.
So when you
there's another thing about Kill Team, right? That you haven't mentioned. My personal favorite thing about them is they reroll all the hits against Xenos.
Exactly that, yeah. The Xenos. I love it.
Which is just. Yeah. The first time I read that, I was like, obviously, I play a lot of Xenos crap, and I was like, oh no, that's horrible. That's so scary.
It's so good. It's so good. That's amazing. So when you get these frag cannons and they're re-rolling all hits, and the Thunderhammers are re-rolling all hits, it's a really, really powerful unit. The other 2 guys, they're just kind of like plebs that go with the unit, and they've got just storm shields. It's their wound counters with a 4 on save, which is actually really important to have to get through stuff like Overwatch.
Oh, of course.
So your opponent's got to Overwatch and kill those 2 before they actually get to your good stuff. Which is a really, really good part of the army, really good part of the unit.
Yeah.
And what's absolutely bonkers about all of this, Tom, is all of that reroll hits, OC2. That squad is OC20, 4 Thunderhammers, 4 frag cannons, 2 storm shields. That's 200 points.
Oh, that's insane. That's so good. Yeah, it's beautiful. Because you've got a unit there that punches incredibly hard, shoots incredibly hard, contests objectives incredibly well, has that little bit of flexible durability built in to just tank those early shots or any heavy duty stuff before you get to the good stuff. And it can boop around the board to the places you need it to be, and you can potentially have 2 of these popping up.
Yeah, it's absolutely outrageous. That squad, if you're on a Deathwatch, I mean, 2's your minimum. If you're taking less than 2, something's going wrong. You've got to take at least 2 of those. They're so strong. I take 3 personally. Take 3. Very nice. They're incredibly, incredibly strong. And their main goal is just, I usually deploy them at the back. They're out of range because they're going to be teleporting anyway. And the reason I have 3 is because in one turn I can pick up 3 units with the captain in one squad as well, doing the stratagem for free.
Yeah.
And then you've got that threat of
Yeah.
coming down somewhere into one half the board.
Yes.
Take
There you go.
them.
Oh, yes. So the free strat combo. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Very,
you can
very
pick up all
nice. So
three
at
in one
some
go.
stage. So do you find it tends to be an army then where you're sort of biding your time and waiting for that in, and then you just go
Yeah.
with a bunch of stuff?
It depends a little bit on the matchup, but yeah, generally, yeah, you're waiting for a bit of an opening,
Super
or you're
good.
waiting for them to like have one weak flank, and you absolutely just smash that flank. And the next turn,
Just
you come
fold
to
it
the other
in.
flank. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. It's funny because obviously GSC Deathwatch is a matchup we'll talk about in a bit, but actually in terms of the toolkit and the things it can do, it does similar sorts of things, right? With that kind of, I'm going to hit you really hard here, then I'm going to recycle, I'm going to come and hit you really hard here. I can reach you wherever you are. I've got a lot of high volume shooting, so there's definitely some parallels with that in terms of the threat that it poses. No, that's really cool. And so obviously Desolators, I mean, people are very familiar with Desolation Marines at this stage, but I guess they play an important role here, don't they? Because they just give you a couple of important ingredients in the sort of tempo of the game. So you want to just briefly comment on that?
So the biggest downside to the counter to Deathwatch is screens, because they can screen out your deep strikes. You need to be deep striking every single turn, and your frag cannons need to get within 12 of their target to actually really pop off. That's when they get into rapid fire range, and they do really huge damage. So you've got to get up close and personal. So your Desolators, what you want to do, your first turn or two, is they're killing screens. They're finding screens and they're killing them.
Yeah.
They're making sure by
picking
turn
off
2
those
or 3,
outer layers.
Exactly that. By turn 2 or 3, your opponent has just got like the good stuff left, and then your vets are there to come and drop in and annihilate those. So they play a really, really important role. Obviously, they combo with that stratagem for extra AP and -1 and 6-inch range really well. And I think I'd go as far as to say they're the best Desolators in the game. They're better than Ultramarines, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Because that AP -1.
Yeah, I just think being able to reach further and get that AP without having to be, plunging fire or whatever else. I see people trying different things to make sure they get the AP, but it's
when you go for
could have that as well.
if on UKT you stand on the top at any point, if you want to fire your main guns, then your indirect is -2 ignores cover. You've got -3 indirect. It's outrageous. Not good for the game, but outrageous.
No, but no one's saying Desolators are good for the game. But I said the game's got enough problems. We don't need to be bullying I was very worried about Desolators before this meta kicked in, and to be honest, they are low down on my list of things I'm worried about right now. And I think they'll have their time.
The same.
We'll see. There'll be a new wave of Marine stuff soon, and they'll be like, go and buy these instead. You've got those now. We don't need to sell you these anymore. So those I think are the sort of, that's where a lot of the raw killing and the sort of overall plan of stripping off the enemy's screening and defensive potential and then delivering that hammer blow comes from. But there's a lot of sort of supporting tech and other little bits and pieces in the list as well that you tend to use. So do you want to comment on a couple of the other units that you use to help this thing?
Yeah, the other unit which I love is the Proteus Kill Team. I've got to give the Proteus Kill Team, it's absolutely fantastic. So I'll give a shout out to my friend Kevin. He's the first one who mentioned this unit to me and did an RTT with it. And I was like, yeah, that's good. I can see its uses. It's really, really good. I was straight on the phone to Dave Gale saying we need to try to Proteus Kill Team. This thing is beautiful. So the Proteus Kill Team is like a mix of like old Marines, bikes, like Firstborn Marines, bikes, and Terminators. So you can take 5 Deathwatch veterans, and those 5 guys, you take 4 frag cannons, because you always want frag cannons, 1 Thunderhammer. You then take 1 biker with like just a long vigil melee weapon or like a chainsword. And this guy, the main role of him is he can go through walls, so he's going to give you your reach.
This is it.
12.
That's it.
And then you've got 4 Terminators. You've got 1 guy to the Thunderhammer Storm Shield. And then 3 guys, their weapons, I take a Cyclone Missile Launcher, Storm Bolter, and Power Fist.
Okay.
But a lot of people are running like Assault Cannons. But it depends. I like the range of the Cyclone, but there's always that argument which one's better.
Interesting.
I've gone for the
Cyclone. Yeah, I can see. I guess the mortal wound potential is nice. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's good for the Wraith Knight, the Assault Cannon. Those are your options, and it's a really, really good unit. In that unit, it's 330 points, so it's very, very expensive, but it gives you that access to 4 guys with 4 pin bun saves, a 2-up save base. So when you get those guys in cover and you pop Armor of Contempt on them, you got a 0-up save unit. It's like the old 9th edition stuff we used to have with like Terminators, and it's really, really good. It has a lot of uses. On top of that, you can combine it with a Watchmaster. The Watchmaster, I think the GW really wants to sell this model as well. He's desperate to sell it.
That's how you solve an index, right? You just find the stuff they want you to get.
This Watchmaster has just so many rules. So he has Vex for one. He can cause your opponent to. You can increase the CP of one of your opponent's strats. Phantasm, which is really, really important in this meta because some strats are just absolutely bonkers. And then also he gives the unit he goes in advance and charge, fall back and charge, advance and shoot, and fall back and shoot.
Okay.
All 4.
Yeah.
So you have this Proteus kill team which can go through walls even with a bike. It moves 12 with the bike. Advances and charges, and fall back and charge. Advance and shoot because you've got the 4 frag cannons in there and the cyclone missile launchers all advancing and shooting now. It's absolutely bonkers. Yeah. There's so much flexibility.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, in many games, I shove that into the middle, say you can't kill it.
Yeah.
I've got a 0 up save, and I can advance and charge anywhere now. I can shoot, advance and shoot anywhere now, and it gives you huge flexibility. It's very hard for your opponent to deal with.
Yeah,
very, very hard.
Yeah, I've played against it like once because Ed was trying different things out, and with a unit like that, and there's a couple of armies that can do this now. Necrons can do it with their little floaty characters as well, where it becomes incredibly hard to work out where the unit can go because you've got this thing that's quicker than everything else in it. So you're looking at it and your brain's going, that's 6-inch movement. But then you've got advance and charge, you've got a 12-inch moving bike, so it can just reach out and touch so much more. And as you say, being able to go through walls, massively powerful. So it feels like this is the sort of on-ground presence whilst the other stuff boops around and shoots and gets stuck in, at the sides. But this is just a hammer that you can just apply whenever you need and keeps the opponent really honest in the mid-board. So it's a really powerful tool. And obviously, those Terminators don't go down easy. So again, they're running theme here where you've got those quite durable sort of gatekeepers within the squad. Again, I guess Crypto Thralls would be a parallel where it's like there's something in there. If you do try and get it, you've got this mini game where you're trying to chew through a really, really tough thing. And if you don't do it, it's still just as dangerous and as effective as it was before, really. Maybe you lose a couple of Cyclones or a Thunderhammer or whatever, but it's still got a lot of punch. So that sounds incredibly tough. And the Watchmaster, am I right in thinking he gives you Vect as well?
It gives Vect, yeah.
Yeah, so that's nice to have right now too. Yeah. Just making Phantasm expensive or -1 damage for Custodies, whatever it is, just like something you don't want out there. Yeah. No, that's great. And then, what other sort of supporting units do you tend to bring to the list?
So that's a lot of the points gone there. I've got the Watchmaster, the Captain. I've got 3 Deathwatch veterans, Desolators, the Proteus kill team. I take a unit of Inceptors, and that's for the GSC matchup and the Eldari matchup specifically. Deep Strike within 3 inches. There's a lot of uses there, which I play both his games, so we can probably talk about that during those games.
Absolutely.
I got Inceptors, and I've got a Repulsor. I got a Repulsor in the list.
Nice, good tech.
Which was genuinely, list submissions Sunday 12 o'clock. I put that Repulsor in at 11:50. So
I think that's a good call. I don't think that's a bad call at all. Yeah,
fantastic.
Because that presumably you could put your Desolators in it, and then they're not getting shot by anything.
Yeah.
Or can it carry kill teams?
It can carry kill teams as well. It can. Yeah, it can. If the Proteus loses the Terminator, then the Proteus can get in there as well, but it has to lose the Terminator first. It has to die.
Yeah. So it's interesting because the Repulsor has these moments where it does pop up, doesn't it, as this sort of... It just helps negate some of the ways people would get at Desolation Marines. I know I've definitely tried Manticores when I played Ed. I was like, I'm just going to have some Manticores just so I've got something that can punk Desolation Marines, and it can definitely make a difference in that game. So being able to decide when you pop out and avoid getting hit by some rockets or something is definitely very sensible. So, and it's for its points, it's a very tough little tank. The Repulsor, it's good, it's durable, it shoots well.
I think actually, I was speaking from my games. It only died against Josh Roberts, 2 Wraith Knights. That died like straight away. Second. I can't think of another time it died. It was just holding primary every turn.
There you go.
In the open. It's
absolute hero.
Yeah, exactly. It's an amazing. And obviously, I think the reason I did it is because I looked at who was on the roster to go, and I know it's a lot of the people going, like the known names who are going to be towards the top tables. A lot of them are all running Eldari and like to play night spinners.
Night spinners, exactly.
Like Manticores in there and stuff. So I thought against those players, if I'd ever Repulsor, I'd just lose straight away because you need your Desolators in that game.
No, that's exactly it.
That's why
you do need them.
Worth it. Yeah.
No, I completely agree, and I think for Deathwatch players looking to shore up those kinds of matchups, I highly recommend it. Certainly for GSC, as I say, I was experimenting with it, and if there is a repulsor there, it doesn't that whole game plan falls down. So it's a really nice sort of counterplay to that, and really worth having because it's not that expensive for a wonderful little gun transport. It's great. Okay, brilliant. Right, well, let's talk Leeds because obviously, semi-finalist position is incredible in the current scene and with the current armies out there at this moment in time. So let's talk about your run there, and then you feel free to zoom in on any games or matchups you particularly want to. Obviously, I'm sure people will be interested to hear about all of them because we're all still learning so much at the moment. But let's talk through it.
Perfect. So my first game was. Oh, sorry, Karen.
No, after you.
So my first game probably was my most enjoyable game, I think, from a tactical standpoint. Just before the cutoff, one unit I forgot to mention is I had Unit 5 infiltrators as well. But originally before I had the repulsor, I had another unit of infiltrators and a Phobos librarian, and those two really good pieces for the GSC matchup. But because there was less GSC players going and more Eldari, I cut that out for the repulsor. And then game one, I paired into GSC. And it was GSC, a War Masters player as well. Edward Morgan, a very, very good player.
Oh, I know Ed. Yes, he's a solid player. Yeah.
Very, very good player. So I did a lot of practice into this matchup, a lot of discussions with my team and the GSE player, Yockel, in my team, and Dave, who'd played the match a few times. A lot of TTS, just how am I going to deploy, how am I going to play this? And Deathwatch, I think they're known as like a GSE counter. They're very, very good at playing into GSC. However, I'd removed my GSC tech. I just had one unit of 5 infiltrators. I was thinking, this could be really, really tough. So I decided basically that in this matchup, I'm going to go super aggro, just super absolute aggro. Put them under as much.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, as much pressure as I can. Try and force any mistakes I can, and just spread the board completely.
Yeah.
So he went first. He had all the general stuff. He had saboteurs, clavises which block deep strike, 2 ridge runners, 3 acolyte bombs, 2 neophyte bombs, all that. And so he went first, which is good for me. So because he goes first, that means that at the end of his turn, I can pick up my units, my 3 Deathwatch veterans. So I have the ability to pick up 3 Deathwatch veteran units there. Now, what I did was I didn't put anything in the repulsor. I left it empty. And the reason for that is because you then can start your 3 Deathwatch veteran units on the board, and I hid them at the back corners, and my Proteus kill team on the board, which means that he finishes his turn, and GSC turn 1, they do nothing, really. He finishes
they really don't. They really don't.
Yeah. And he left this corner of the board with nothing in, because they start with nothing on the board, basically, other than the ridge runners and his aberrants, which were tucked in his L in the middle of the board. So I basically picked up my 3 units. They came down in that corner, all 3 of them. I set up a screen, so 2 units went in front and 1 unit went inside at the back, safe from any bombs. So I'd only lose a max of 2 units in the following turn in his punch back. And those 3 units annihilated the unit of aberrants that were hiding. So those 3 go up, they drop down, kill all the aberrants. He rolls a 1 on his dice to come back, which is huge. So his aberrants aren't coming back; they're done.
Oh yeah,
that's gone. That's I think it's 400 points gone. So it's really, really big for me.
It's a big loss. Yeah.
And then I spread out. My land speeder goes in the corner. My desolator stay in the back, in the middle, and and repulsor goes up and just holds an objective, and just spread out as much of the board as possible. And a Proteus kill team advances into the middle, so it can basically go anywhere next turn and hold primary. So at this stage, I'm on 3 of the objectives. I'm in the corner. There's literally nowhere on the board he can drop, except for my bottom left, where there's no targets if he drops there. So there's no real good targets for him. I then also pop my sustain hits turn, and the reason for that is going into the next turn when he drops down. When I Overwatch, I still have sustained hits. And
very clever.
My 6 is going to be 2 hits, and then Deathwatch veterans, as we know, they re-roll hits. So he drops a unit of 10 acolytes down. He drops a unit of 10 acolytes down to bomb. He gets within 3 inches to rapid fire range, and I throw 8d3 plus 8 shots. I think it's an average of 24. Roll for your 6s, take them out, re-roll. You get an average of it's an average of 14 to 16 hits, essentially.
Yeah. So you're just going to melt them before they even throw. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've only got 2 places you can bomb with a Nexus. You can only bomb 2 places, and 1 squad should die to Overwatch.
Yeah.
So it's there's no punchback. I should lose a max 1 unit of veterans and whatever the neophytes do, which is not that amazing. I also killed a ridge runner with my desolators just to reduce the amount of extra AP -1. So I did that, and that's where Deathwatch are really, really good into the GSE matchup. It's about timing, like when you just sustain hits and so on. I got pretty unlucky with Acolytes. I think I didn't kill the squad, and he got a few demo charges back. So in the punchback, I did lose 2 squads of veterans, which is quite sad. But essentially, from that point onwards, the game's an uphill battle for him. He's in a really bad spot because I just own the board. I've still got Interceptors to come down and so on. I think going on into my turn 2, I decided he had a few aberrant squads left, and UKTC had ruled that they get the demo charges back when they die, when they come back down from a blip. So I was thinking, if he recycles that over and over again, I think eventually I'll just run out of stuff and he will still win the game. So instead of letting him recycle, I decided to have the plan of just tagging Acolyte squads. So I'd charge in, leave a frag cannon in range of them, so I didn't kill the Acolyte squad, and then tag it up so it couldn't do anything in the following turn. So turn 2, I just tagged everything he had, so he couldn't pick it all back up in blips. So I think he only blipped like turn 5 was the only blip he actually brought back into the game at any point. And I think I won 100 to 56. It was a really, really good win. I was really happy with.
Solid win. Yeah, no, that's really well delivered, because I think GSC are one of those ones where, as you say, you have to do everything right. You have to know all the little weak spots, know what parts of the game they're weak in and when they're vulnerable, and fully maximize that. It's kind of counterintuitive. It's funny because I've played GSC for a few years, and it used to be that you really needed to keep them in front of you and wait and see what they did, and now it's like you go and you literally uproot them kicking and screaming, and you just throw them out the house, right? It's the complete opposite now. It's like, just get in there, go and smash their face in and make sure they can't do anything. So I think people are still figuring that out a little bit. No, that's it. If stuff just starts coming back on their terms, you just, as you say, you get out traded because they don't lose their trades, whereas you do. So it's not good. No, that's really well delivered, because Ed's a great player, so that's a massive result. Very well done. What did you face next?
Next, I played Necrons. I played against like a bit of a different Necron list, some other bits of tech in there, which is quite nice, some nice pieces. He had like the standard Lich Guard blob with the Overlord and the Technomancer, the unkillable Lich Guard, and like some other stuff like some Tomb Spiders, and it was against Mark Crumbleholm as well, so a very well-known player in UKTC.
Oh yeah, Mark's a very canny player, yeah.
Luckily for Deathwatch, this is a great matchup for Deathwatch. You don't lose this game. It's big blobs of Lich Guard. They don't die. They don't survive to frag cannons. Those frag cannons are going to get 2d3 shots, an extra 2 hits because they're big blob, and they're low AP, which is the good thing against Lich Guard, because Lich Guard, they don't really have much armor save. It's just a 4-pin button, and that's 3 up, 4 up, plus.
Yeah.
So turn 1, he went first. He moved out his Lich Guard and a few other tech pieces, and I basically just dropped everything down, killed the Lich Guard. And once the Lich Guard fall over Necrons, that's kind of the game there, because that's kind of what their army focuses around.
Yeah.
You've got the really hard Catan to kill, but yeah, it's a very good game for Deathwatch. I don't think there's much of a game there, unfortunately, for Necrons.
Yeah. But that's the meta at the moment. As you say, the Xenos are out to play, and the Xenos hunters are here saying, we've got the tools, man. We're built for this. This is what we do. So it's working out very nicely. And I do think at the moment, I'd be interested to see how Necrons evolve, because I think, there's quite a lot of lists at the moment that are a little bit guilty of asking one question, which is like, can you kill me? And it's like, and there are lists out there who can say, yes, I can. And at the moment, I'm not seeing Necron lists that have that kind of, what's the plan B here? What's the other out if they do have answers to those blobs? So I think I'm optimistic. Actually, Necron players will evolve their list a little bit. It'll be interesting to see going forwards. But Deathwatch is obviously going to remain a rough matchup for them.
It's a Necron hunter. It definitely takes them down. It's quite nice.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
It's enjoyable.
Yeah, it's good. It's a very satisfying feeling to just go through an unkillable brick, right?
Yeah.
Very nice. What did you have next?
So my third game is against, I think I had a tour of the well-known UKTC players. I played game 3 against
okay.
He's Thousand Suns. He's like a really well-known Thousand Suns player, and an incredible player as well. A really, really good player.
Yeah.
This was a really tough game. I played, so it's against Thousand Suns. So this matchup I had never played against before. I played a little bit of Thousand Suns, Vix on them, so I knew a little bit about them, but I'd never played it before.
Yeah.
And they've got a few really difficult pieces, which is hard for us to deal with. They have what Jake had. He had 3 big bricks of Rubric Marines, all with Warp Flamers. And in those bricks, he had Araman in one, and then he had 2 bricks with Exalted Sorcerers. And what they do is they say, you can only target me if you're within 18-inch range. Now, the board you're on So I can't shoot with desolators or anything. The board we're on was really, really dense. It was really hard to like it's very hard to deep strike in because it was so dense. It was really easy for Jake to screen out, and he had quite a lot of screens in his army that were awkward for me to deal with. So I can never actually get to these units, which I think that's going to be my main challenge. He could have a bit of a standoff here. We just played a card game. He also had Magnus and a brick of 10 Terminators. And the main concern with these units is that they both went into Deep Strike. And I think what he was doing was he was planning to rapid ingress them in, move one of them forward, then in his turn, and then he can indirect if he can see me. If one unit can see my unit of Desolators, the rest of his army can indirect it for a strat. So I was thinking, basically, turn 2 and 3, I have to make sure I do not let him rapid ingress anywhere useful. He can't rapid ingress onto my Desolators. And then I should be good. I should still win the game because I'll be firing indirect the whole game. He won't be firing anything back at me.
And he doesn't get his hit back. Yeah.
Exactly. And it was a mission where it was kill 1, kill more. So I'd be getting that kill 1, 4 points every turn, whereas he wouldn't get back on me. So I basically played a really passive game where I didn't do anything except for push out a screen every turn to make sure he couldn't rapid ingress my Desolators. So it was a bit of a dull game, to be honest, in that sense.
Well, I'm not going to cry for Thousand Suns having to deal with someone playing a passive game.
And I basically every turn he had 3 units of Zangor Enlightened, like the guys on like they're on like little discs. And I just killed one of those turns to get my kill 1. So I got kill 1 and kill more for killing those, which is like 8 points every turn. So I was up on the primary on him absolutely massively. He did a really cool play where he rapid ingressed a Terminator brick, and he basically just came down and went for me turn 3, but didn't quite do enough damage. I had a few things left over at the end. So it was a bit more of a passive game, that one. It was like a bit of like a game of chess, but I did have the advantage because of the indirect fire. And the indirect fire Desolators, I think turn 1, I killed 10 rubrics, the Arrowman squad. I killed 10 rubrics from the indirect fire, so it was like, that unit is very, very good. Desolators into big bricks that can be targeted.
No, it's extremely good. And actually, the Purge mission with the Kill More, that's where stuff like indirect really shines, and you really feel it if you can't get yours to bear, because you need to be picking up those kills or you just fall so far behind. Really nicely done. And it sounds like you're having what we call a hell of a run so far, because you played 3 names I recognise who are all very, very established good players in their factions. So you've done great.
It was really nice though, because it was established name players, but not on Wraith Knights. So happy days.
Exactly. Sampling a bit more of the meta, and there's some really interesting stuff bubbling away just under those sort of top armies, and so hopefully we will see more of that going forwards. So what was round 4, Chris?
Round 4 was against Tau. Now, round 4, I can't remember the name of the guy. Again, another really, really nice chap. But he was playing a Taunar.
Wow.
I didn't know this was a thing in the game. So this thing is absolutely massive. It's like half the size of me. And it's got this giant trunk of a railgun on its head. He deploys it, and the railgun is like in the middle of the board already. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely crazy model. So this thing is just huge. So I got the night before to basically do my maths. How do I kill this thing who's like 30 wounds, just ridiculously huge, 30 wounds, 5 of invuln, blah blah, just really hard to kill. So I do my maths on it, and I was like, okay, if I drop my whole army onto it, it dies. If I advance my Proteus kill team out and shoot it, and then I drop all 3 units of veterans and shoot it, it's dead. Okay. So all I need to do is spend it's ridiculous. I need to spend a turn or 2 of killing the screens to make sure I can drop onto it, and then eventually, if I go turn, I'll drop and kill it. I'll pop like
just go with everything.
For it. go to town, and we'll see what happens. Game. So I arrive in the morning. It's a Sunday morning, so I'm hungover, obviously, and I sat at the board with him. And I was like, okay, just before we start playing a game, because you've got towering and you've got this outrageous model, can we decide what I can hide in every building and not be seen from power in any way? So he's a really nice guy. So we're like, place the model there, please.
Yeah.
Can you see this unit now? Can you place the model there? Can you see this unit now? And that's how I'm like building my battle plan of what I can actually get away with in this game, how I can.
That's really, really smart.
Where I can deploy and so on. Because this thing is very limited where it can go, because it can't fit through the ruins. So it's limited to a couple positions. Because the base is so large. So I decided where I can deploy. I was like, okay, I can actually deploy completely out of sight of this guy. Because of the way the deployment was, I had to deploy everything by big L, and I had like one of a small L I could put a few things in. So we start the game off, and he strap reserved all his crew hounds, which we talked about at the end, which was a bit of a mistake. He did this. He strap reserved the crew hounds so they didn't get killed by Desolator straight away. However, that meant basically turn one, I picked up my whole army and killed the Towner because he had no.
You're like, I don't even need to clear the screens. I can just go. Yeah.
But to be honest, it is
poor fella. But also,
yeah.
And also, that's almost like it's literally like a Deathwatch like novel or something, right? They're hunting a Taunar down, they got all the gear, and they just go and just gank it. Like it's cinematic as hell. I love it. Not a long game, but it's a very cinematic one. Oh, amazing. Okay, and so you're up in the dizzying heights now. So it's only going to get nasty from here on out. So what is waiting for you in round 5?
Round 5, I drew Adeptus Custodes. They're a bit of like a.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of considered like the army. They're not GSE or Elder, obviously, but they're just below, aren't they? They're doing well.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment.
Yeah, good army. Yeah. So I played against someone called Charles, and Charles played Carl Grundy just before in like round 2 or 3. And I know Carl quite well. I talked to Carl a lot throughout the events. So this guy played Charles. I've never heard of him before. I went to Carl and said, so basically, what's his list? Can you talk me through like his main tricks? Have you got any tricks that he uses and so on? And Carl was like, he's a very, very good player. Just he's really precise. He's a really good player. But you have a great game. I was like, oh, great, excellent, thank you. Went off to play the game, and Charles is an absolutely top player. Absolute top player.
Oh, amazing.
Was really, really good. And he has a really good plan for his custodes, and like he used rapid ingress really well and stuff. So it was a really good game, and he plays the game really well. And it was a game with full by intent. It was a really, really good game. So I start off, and basically Custodes again. It's another good matchup for Deathwatch. I got a bit lucky on that. Because it's big bricks of troops that we can try and like blast and try and choose.
Yeah, you can just put the focus on the different bricks one at a time. Yeah.
And how I knew Charles was a good player and a really good player is because he knew this straight away. We started the game, we started deploying, and then we rolled, and he went first, and he basically went, all right, I have to go for you. He recognised straight away that if he tries to play the long game here, or he tries to eke it out or wait a turn, he's going to lose because my Deathlanders will start picking stuff up, and eventually he's got to come for me.
Yeah.
So he just picks up he had a big brick of the guys who can go in reserve, the Terminators. I can't remember what they're called.
Oh yeah, the Alaris, I think.
Yeah. Alaris, yeah. So he had a big brick of those. He picks them up, and he drops them down 9 away from my Desolators. He had a big brick he had another 2 he picked up. He ran out some Wardens at me, and I made a mistake. I actually went first. I killed a Warden with indirect, which meant he could respawn it closer to me in his command phase, which was a huge error on my part. So I did all this. I moved a Proteus kill team into the middle, leaving it just out of charge range for his Wardens, so I could like kind of have some threat with the Proteus kill team, which is your go-to thing with this army. And then I killed a Warden so he can get closer, and he made an 8-inch charge on me. So I was like, oh, that's a mistake. That's so stupid. So stupid. I was like, oh, God. He went as well. He's like, oh, that's perfect. You just killed one. That's perfect for me. I was like, why? Oh, no. Oh, dear. I've messed up. I've messed up big time. So that was my first mistake this game. It was game 5. The mistakes were coming. And the second mistake was leaving the Desolators in my L, but on the second floor so that he could charge them. If he did a 9-inch, he picked up his unit and did a 9-inch charge, which he went for. And I should have known that he's going to recognise this is a bad matchup for him and that he needs to be aggressive. So I gave him
try the play.
Basically the game. Yeah, I gave him, and he made the 9-inch charge. We actually had a bit of an ongoing joke throughout the game, is that like we both understood that it was a good game for Deathwatch and that he had to take risks. And I think every turn he tried a 9-inch charge, and every turn he made it. It was like, oh, another 9, classic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really big game. So he charges his Terminators in, and he killed like a unit of Deathwatch veterans with my captain there as well. So that's huge. That's like 300 points gone for me. And the captain's really good into Custodes because he's damage free, mortal wounds, all this stuff. Killed that, and he tagged my Desolators up. He moved his Wardens in. He only rolled an 8-inch charge, which meant he couldn't get everyone in. So he didn't clear my Proteus kill team. He killed a couple of models. I can't remember exactly what he killed, but he didn't kill them all. I then responded. This is where I used my Tome of Ectoclades. I double oathed the Terminators and the Trajan and his Custodian Wardens. I think Charles made one mistake here. The Wardens have an ability where they can get a 4 at Film of Pain for one phase of the game.
Yes.
Now, because he made a bad charge roll, he knew he wasn't going to clean out my Proteus kill team. He knew he was going to kill a few. I can take off like some of the, a couple Terminators or like some of the frag cannon models that don't really matter at this stage. So what he did was he popped his 4-up of pain here, so that my didn't hit him too hard back. I think that was a mistake because what he wants is a 4-up of pain for my following shooting phase.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the following turn, I basically brought down all my units, picked them up, brought down all down in positions, and then killed those 2 units of his through like some melee, some combat, and so on. He did a really good rapid ingress play here. He rapid ingressed and then he heroically intervened with a unit of 9 spears.
Oh,
outrageous! It was really clever. It was really clever. And I was like, oh, I'm panicking again now because now they're going to be there and they're going to move forward and start taking off primary and start like really cutting my score down. And he could get a bit of tempo through that play. He didn't quite kill the unit that he heroically intervened into, which was big, so they stayed tied up and they couldn't affect me the following turn, really. He had to fall back with them. But that could have been, again, another... If he had a bit more luck on that one, it could have really swung his way again. From that point onwards, though, the Custodes has lost 2 bricks. They've only got 2 big bricks left of stuff, like Wardens and I can't remember what the other unit was, and a few odd bits here and there, like small like Prosecutor units around. So it came like Operation Cleanup, really. Go around, you teleporting one unit at a time and killing it. And turn 3, pick all units up, drop down and kill another unit. Turn 4, pick them up, drop down and kill another unit, and so on. And I think that game finished up 69-52 to me by the end of it. But again, really good game. Really, really good game.
Yeah. No, that sounds. Yeah, it sounds like as you say, he had to take the high risk plays, and quite a few of them came off, which makes it a bit peaky for you. But still, yeah, really interesting matchup. Yeah, I guess with your shooting again, it's just such high volume into Custodes. You will just get through those bricks, and their durability doesn't do what they need it to do. No, very well done. So you've made it through 5 rounds. You've battled. You've scraped. You've fought. What was your reward for getting this far?
My reward was my game went on the longest, I think, of all the people who made the top cut. So my reward was I just finished. Okay, just won. I've made the top cut. I'm like, oh great! I'm gonna go to Tesco, get some food. Have a sit down, have a chat with my team, basically about what the armies I could face. Which, by the way, are 3 other Eldar armies. Great.
Of course,
3 Eldar, and a total of 4 Wraith Knights I think was there in the top cut. So I was like, okay, I'm probably playing Racing Wraith Knight now. And then I didn't get that because Josh Roberts walks over and says, "Chris, it's me and you next. All the other games have already finished." I was like, "Great, cheers, Josh." I love to play, but I want to play properly. So we basically, because his game had finished so early, because he's playing 2 Wraith Knights, we could get started with our game straight away because we were guaranteed the top 2, I think it was. So we were guaranteed to be playing each other, or no, first and fourth. I can't remember how it worked, but they knew it was us 2 basically. So we could get started on our game, and it didn't last long. It was a very, very tough one.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it, where towering and the angles involved just make this extremely, extremely rough for you, as does the Overwatch when you come and try and get him. Like, there's just so many things you can do that make your life very difficult here. By all means, do feel free to tell us how it went.
So Josh's list is basically 4 models. It's 2 Wraith Knights. And it's just crazy. It's 2 Wraith Knights, an avatar of something. The Eldar avatar, it's got a name to it.
Yeah, he's got Kane, the avatar of Kane, and the Incarn, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah, and the Incarn, that's it, yeah. And he's got those 4. He's got a Farseer on foot, a Farseer Skyrunner, and 3 units of Shadow Spectres, and the Autarch. And that's the army. Now, in this match, I practiced this matchup against... it's so small. I practiced this matchup against David Gaylord before, because I was like, I'm going to play Wraith Knight at some point. That's how I practice game. And he played Wraith Guard and 1 Wraith Knight. Which is a bit easier for me to deal with than 2 Wraith Knights. But basically, I know in this game, the key is the Farseers. You've got to kill the Farseers. If those Wraith Knights have -1 to wound on them, they're T12, I think, -1 to wound. My T12, whole army is strength 7 or strength 10. So I can't touch it. I literally cannot touch it. So I was like, no matter what happens, I've got to kill the Farseers. I've got to kill the Chaffee units, like the Shadow Spectres and stuff like that. And then eventually have a go turn where he's got not much left, just the big stuff. So my game plan, and I had a good chat with Yockel, in my team just before I went and gave him a phone call because he knows a lot more than me about the game generally. He's an absolute fountain of knowledge. So my game plan was going to be I let Josh just walk towards me with his big bricks, and I just stay still, build up CP, but absolutely stay still and basically kill the Farseers in my turn and try and kill the screens. Now, it's game 6, so I made one big mistake, which made no difference in the end. It didn't matter. I was going to lose the game. But I made one big mistake where I didn't kill the Farseer in an activation of shooting. Which I just got greedy and I thought I'd split fire a little bit, and then it backfired. I didn't kill the Farseer, so we had -1 to move to the following turn. From that point, I was like, I've lost the game. That's the game. That's the game done. That's such a stupid thing to do. I also wasn't helped by the mission. The mission was long ways. So that means it's the mission where turn 1 he can hide his Farseer from my shooting. Usually with Deathwatch, 42 inches and 54 on the Vengor. That's enough to be able to shoot anywhere on the board as long as you deploy in the middle of your product zone. We drew on the one mission where he could hide his Farseer turn 1.
Couldn't reach
really
him.
Annoying.
I
had to wait till turn 2 to kill it, and then have turn 3 being my drop turn, which meant they had a bit more shooting with his Wraith Knights before I could actually drop on him. So we played it out. I got to turn 3 really fast because I didn't do anything. I let him score like 30 points ahead of me, and then I did the drop turn. And on my drop turn, he overwatched a unit of 10 veterans with a Wraith Knight and killed 9 of them in Overwatch.
That's the way that goes. Yeah.
I brought down 3 Inceptors to block in a Wraith Knight, like my target. I'm going to block in the Wraith Knight with the Inceptors. We can't Phantasm away.
Oh, clever. Yeah, very clever. Good. Yeah.
So what I was trying to do, I moved the veterans first to bait out the Overwatch. I was like, I don't want him overwatching the Inceptors because I want to trap him in. So I was like, I'm doing a clever thing here. And then I had to remove the whole veteran squad. I was like, that didn't work. It's just dead. Ridiculous. It was so outrageous, mate.
Oh man,
are crazy.
It's just losing hundreds of points in your own turn is just nuts. Like it's just crazy.
It's just bonkers army, isn't it? And also, there's another point. He moved another Wraith Knight up the side of the board. Like I say, I was waiting for turn 3 at this point because I messed up with the Farseer. I was waiting for turn 3 to drop on Josh. And he moved up the other Farseer beside the board. Wraith Knight, sorry. And I had one guy with like a tiny bit of a jetpack sticking out of the L that you could just about see when he moved 10 inches because his gun was slightly out. Which, it's just a small mistake. It's the 6th game. So he could see that squad. As soon as he sees it, it's deleted. So at that point, I'd lost 2 veteran squads to Overwatch and to an unexpected loss. So we basically shook hands there. There's no game at that point. I've lost half my army. Half my stuff is actually going to kill it. So that was the game.
I think that's one of the big feel bads with the Wraith Knights. They're just like a little gun arm just picks up like a whole bunch of stuff, and you're trying to hide and you're still getting caught out. Like it's horrible.
Exactly. A tiny bit of gun sticks out to a tiny bit of a jetpack. I'm like, oh damn it! There goes 200 points because of that.
But I think that is still. That's such a good performance, obviously Josh is running the most bonkers army in the game. You've pushed it all the way there, and obviously had a couple of things not go your way in that game. It's a really rough matchup, regardless. But it's a phenomenal run with one of the armies that isn't really on people's radar in the top set in the same way that some of these other options are. So, very very exciting.
Thank you.
And I guess we're going to see what the changes are. We know what comes and what adapts, because Deathwatch are one of those armies I'm looking at where it's like if the stars align, they could have a very good end to the year. We just have to see how everything fits together. Is there anything you'd do differently in terms of your list? Anything you'd change in terms of the approach, or were you very happy with how it performed?
I was really really happy with how it performed. I think for Deathwatch I'm almost there with the list. I'm to the current meta really. Finding a way to kill Wraith Knights, but I honestly don't know if there's a way to kill Wraith Knights with Deathwatch. I'm not sure. I think you could deal with one. Because you got the captain with the Feature Secrets. He can deal with a Wraith Knight. It's like 8 wounds to it on average, I think. So that with the actual unit he's in is okay. You can deal with 1. I'm not sure you can deal with 2. I think that's just you have to be really, really lucky.
This double one just seems to be beyond. It's the same problem for a lot of armies. Like, you can commit to kill one, and then you're there hanging out, and the other one just goes to town, and so it's very difficult.
Maybe fitting some Hellblasters somewhere. A unit of 10 Hellblasters.
I do like Hellblasters. They are really punchy. Yeah, that would be interesting to see in Deathwatch, because again, with teleporting, there's some potential there.
Exactly.
And they've got that nice thing of, you can delete me if you like. I'm still going to shoot anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's quite enjoyable.
I think if you with the Hellblasters as well, if you put a captain in there, you can pick them up for free, and then the next turn you drop them down and do another strat on them for free. So you can really hit hard with those Hellblasters as well.
I think there's definitely play in that, and they're not too expensive for what they do for like the first time in about 4 years. So it's quite nice to see them out and about. Great. Well, I'm very excited to see what you cook up with them next, and it's a pleasure to meet you properly, having heard lots about you. So thank you so much for coming on. It's good. Glad that thanks for doing something exciting and interesting at a big event, so that we had something to do state of play around. I really appreciate the effort, and really well done on the result. I'm sure we'll see a lot more from you and from Ignite in the following months and the following season as well. So brilliant. Thanks very much, Chris. Thank you very much to everybody for listening. We'll be back again when I find another army that's managing to hang in there and do something exciting before too long. So see you all again then soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Tom. Thank you.